Welcome to today's webinar, HP Apps 12 Update, Gain the Elusive Balance Between Velocity and Quality. Next slide, please. This webinar, in conjunction with Vivit and HP, we're happy to have you here today joining us. Next slide, please. My name is Mark Herbert. I am one of the Vivit directors, in particular over education, and I'm the chapter leader for the Arizona chapter of Vivit. And with us on today's call is John J.G. Chirapuras. He's the VP and GM of ADM for HP Software, as well as Kelly Emo, Director of Applications Product Marketing for HP Software. Today's webinar is being recorded. Recordings are available to all Vivit members. So after the fact, you'll be able to come back and look at this presentation again. Also, we will have questions and answers at the end of the session. So for those of you that have used our webinars before, there's a questions panel on the right that you can tap into and ask questions throughout the presentation, and we'll address as many of those as possible at the end of the session. Next slide. Yeah, you'll see the control panel there on your right. There's a space there to answer, or excuse me, ask questions and get answers. Next slide. So with that, I'm going to turn this presentation over to Kelly for an introduction to the HP Apps 12 portfolio. Kelly?
Thanks, Mark. And I am joined here by JG. And I'm getting a little bit of an echo, so hopefully you're not hearing that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to JG and see if I can get the echo to disappear. But I appreciate you all joining us today. And we are looking forward to introducing you to our Apps 12 solution. So let me go ahead and turn this over to JG.
Well, hello everybody. There is an echo there. Well, it's April 1st. This isn't a joke. And even though I'm having a bad English day, and I'm new to the business, I'm very pleased to be talking to all of you. So I'm just going to pause for a minute while we try to fix the echo. Checking again. Yep. All right, I'm going to keep going and pretend I'm in the Grand Canyon with this giant echo right behind me. All right, just to maybe perhaps we can move to the next slide, please.
Kelly, are you able to advance the slide?
Oh, yes, someone's going to right now.
Okay, and we're getting a bad echo again. I apologize.
Yes,
are you guys on
I am.
Do you guys on the handset or on a speakerphone?
Totally on the handset.
You are. And the telephone option is clicked in your audio?
The telephone option is clicked in the audio.
It sounds like there's a mic in the computer that's running then as well.
Oh. Is it better?
I believe so.
Okay.
Very good. Yes, thank you.
All right, we're back.
We're back.
Hallelujah.
Yes.
All right. Well, apologies, everybody. That was a little bit of, technical difficulties. I came from Microsoft, but so if it makes anyone feel any better, you can blame all of the Microsoft tools for essentially trying to confound our webinar here. I think we're trying to find the next slide. Oh, perfect. All right, finally. Okay. So, when you look at this slide, it's very, very clear that we are in an age where apps are everything. And perhaps the best example of this is, a couple of weeks ago, I had to go visit my dentist. And I walk in there, and this is a gentleman who has a 30-year-old practice. Okay, he's about ready to sell this practice. The first thing that greets me when I walk in through the door is a sign that says, "Download my app" on Google Play or on the Apple Apple's store, App Store. So it's a very, very interesting time. And when you think back to what it means for somebody like that, certainly not on the cutting edge of technology to release an app, you have to think back what he would have to do if that weren't the case, if we weren't in the age that we are living in today. He'd probably have to buy a server. He'd probably have to find someone to write an app. He'd probably have to stick a whole bunch of load balancers, build his own little data center, and stick it under his desk and make sure it all works. But today with, the duality of, mobility and cloud, these challenges have simply disappeared. So it's not any surprise that, you see we've certainly reached, and not only reached it, we've exceeded the tipping point for application delivery. But two things absolutely remain the case even today as it was yesterday. The demand for quality has simply not abated, okay? And a statistic that I've read is, about 50% of users actually delete an app that isn't up to snuff in terms of quality. So while you have a need to release more faster, the need for quality has not abated. If anything, customers and enterprises are seeking to find that elusive balance, that, shall I say, that, how to realize the promise of quality in the era of continuous delivery.
Can we advance the slide, please?
Looking to get to the next slide.
Just go ahead and arrow down.
I'm sorry, say it again?
Go ahead and just click the arrow down on your computer. I think that'll work.
Arrow down on the computer. Apparently it's not working, but, well, I'll keep talking as if the slide moved, okay?
Okay, and page down will work.
Page down doesn't work either.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
So,
perfect.
All right. So we somehow managed to make it work. So, I'm very, very excited. Now, I've been on board for about 30 days now, and all I've been hearing is HP Apps 12. So over the last 30 days or so, I've been really poking around what is Apps 12 and what are the central things that make Apps 12 real. And perhaps this slide, sort of frames what Apps 12 is the best in a way that I possibly never can in words. When you think about HP and you think about our DNA, we began in a garage, and we began with our, really with solutions and products around test and measurement. That DNA, if there's anything at HP that viscerally connects with that DNA, it is this business. It is the ADM, the application delivery business at HP. So if you say this, from the garage to today's enterprise, we are all about making sure that quality matters. You're able to really move and emerge into a world of continuous delivery but maintain that promise of quality and performance in that journey. And this slide sort of characterizes, it puts things in perspective, how we've sort of made that evolution and we continue to evolve. And HP Apps 12 perhaps encapsulates all of the things we've been working on and fully realizes that DNA that began in the garage, several decades ago. All right, so when you think about Apps 12, and this is sort of a framing slide for the details that follow, the way you think about it is that, in effect, our promise of quality and performance with the, the differentiating aspect that we provide around heterogeneity, as in using your tool of choice, while sharing resources, providing that complete traceability across an ALM experience, whether you're a manual tester, a Scrum Master, a VP of apps, if you're concerned about security, performance, what have you, this is really what, Apps 12 refreshes the portfolio with. Almost every asset, every product, every solution in our portfolio has been refreshed. It has been refreshed for today's challenges. It has been refreshed for the needs of your enterprises and of your own personal needs today. And that is really the promise that HP Apps 12 bring to the market. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Kelly, who will talk through the rest of the slides some more.
Thank you, JG. And I got a little chuckle, actually, today that we had a few technical integration issues between the telephone, the network, the computers, and I appreciate you all staying with us. That what we're going to be talking about is a set of innovations that are really designed to enable all of you to be able to test the complete set of complexity that you're dealing with today's modern style of IT, and to be able to manage these applications that are composite in nature, that are being accessed over mobile devices and going over many different kinds of networks in a more effective way, deliver them faster with higher quality. So it's a fitting theme that we struggled a little bit to get everything going, but now we can really dive in specifically into the new capabilities, the innovations in Apps 12. So I appreciate JG in setting up that, scenario and landscape for us. We really do want to emphasize that while we're driving innovations to help you all manage and test these new technologies, these new architectures, mobility, composite applications, we fundamentally believe that success today requires keeping quality at the center as you're putting in place the technologies and the processes that will help you deliver faster. One of the things that JG showed on the first slide is the incredible speed up, the acceleration in the expectations of how often you're going to release new application capability. And you saw that from information coming from customers all over the world through a survey that we did in our Enterprise 2020 website and social media activity. We asked, what do you think is going to happen in terms of how people are expecting you to release new applications? Back in 2010, the standard was pretty much a couple of times a year for new functionality to be released for any style of application. By 2015, we're looking at 1 or 2 or 3 times a month as the norm. And by 2020, the norm, this is across all application styles, is expected to be a couple of times a week. This is going to put pressure on every aspect of delivering applications, but it's absolutely critical that as we look to ways to accelerate, to automate, to speed up those processes, we also keep quality at the center. So what you see in these 5 focal points with Apps 12 are specific innovations and new capabilities that we've built into our applications platform to help you achieve that balance, to help you be able to do things faster, to automate, to virtualize, to remove latency and manual error out of your processes, while at the same time enabling you to keep quality at the top of the agenda, move testing closer to development, test the different technologies when you need to do them, and get the results quickly available for action. And so you'll see that across all 5 of the key pillars of Apps 12. I'm going to just very briefly touch on them because I know we definitely want to have plenty of time for questions today as well. But I want to highlight these 5 areas and what's the significance of each one. The first is cloud testing. So Apps 12 and our solutions, our ALM product, Performance Center, Load Runner, those capabilities are being designed to enable you to scale your tests much more effectively. And in particular, from a performance perspective, we've added a new capability that's really critical for doing large-scale performance testing when you expect your users to be coming from anywhere, any points around the globe, from a mobile device, across a wireless network, across different data centers. So our cloud testing capabilities, which I'll show you in a second, is new capability that really make it easier to set up that type of testing scenario and execute it on demand. The second area that's a focal point for Apps 12 is the user experience. So all of you that have been using Quality Center and ALM, you know the power of using that unified platform, getting that central single pane of glass for managing all of your quality and lifecycle activities. What we've done is we've doubled down in the user experience that you have and how easy it is to adopt ALM and Quality Center and engage other users, other participants in your application lifecycle from any browser in the type of work that they want to do, but allowing them to participate in the ALM process. So I'll double click on the user experience enhancements we've made. We've made a number of enhancements around mobility. Mobile testing is a key challenge that's impacting everyone. We all know that most organizations have a mobile initiative. If they don't now, they're going to very shortly. Mobile is everywhere. And then how do we make it more efficient and effective to do functional testing of mobile platforms, both automated and manual, to do performance testing of mobile platforms, and to take account the impact of the network when you're actually executing your tests, so that you can be assured that while you think you're getting good functionality or good performance, that network behavior isn't going to compromise that outcome. We also have a number of enhancements in the area of continuous testing. Going back to this idea of accelerated cadence, how do we bring testing more closer to development, tie it together into that continuous integration process, so as you're checking in your code builds, as you're doing continuous development, you're also constantly checking quality throughout that process. And then finally, new and more flexible ways to get access to these capabilities inside your organizations. Get started quickly, get started economically, bring things on-premise, or use them as a software as a service platform. So with that, let me dive into the next one, which is cloud testing. I wanted to do a little bit of a double click on the new cloud testing enhancements in Apps 12. I think this is a significant area that really I could talk about for probably the next 45 minutes, but just going to give you a teaser at this point. So what we have done with Apps 12, with Performance Center and Load Runner, is we've made it very easy and quick to be able to set up and run a performance test in the cloud with your load generators actually out in the cloud at different points of presence around the globe. Now, how this is different from what you've been able to do before is that in the past, it was very challenging to set up and provision a performance test where the load generation actually occurs out in the cloud and then runs load against applications that are either out in the cloud or back in the data center. Challenges were prevalent in terms of how do you actually configure your network to be able to push out that load generator? How do you configure the security connection? How do you manage the firewall? We had heard stories about how with typical technologies, it could take days to weeks to set all of that up. We've actually built into Performance Center and Load Runner, we've codified and automated that ability. So within Performance Center and Load Runner, you can look at what cloud accounts are available to you on something like Amazon Web Services. You can say, I want to push out a certain number of load generators on my cloud accounts in Japan, on my cloud accounts in Europe, in the US, and then basically with a push-button configuration, say push them out, schedule them to run a test, run X number of virtual users, and then either keep them up for the next group to use or deprovision so I'm not being charged. And all of that is done through the Load Runner and Performance Center UI, very graphical, very easy to do, and literally you can spin up cloud testing scenarios in a matter of minutes. So what this means is it's going to make cloud testing not only a reality, but an advantage for your organizations to be able to elastically scale up and meet the different performance testing scenarios that come to you dynamically based on business events, based on expectations of scale from a user demand perspective. It's actually at your fingertips. So I'm really excited about this new capability of cloud testing, and this is available with HP Performance Center and Load Runner 12. So I had mentioned the remarkable ease of use that we have built into ALM and Quality Center 12. I'm really excited to talk about these as well. We have added to ALM and Quality Center a completely new web user interface. This user interface can be accessed from any browser of choice, so we're talking Chrome, Firefox, IE, Safari. It's very clean and simple to use. It's focused today on requirements and defects. So you'll still have your standard ALM and Quality Center client for the full set of functionality that exists within ALM and Quality Center when you're dealing with things like test lab, test planning. But now for defects and requirements, we've added this very clean UI. Now, if you think about it, why this is so powerful is you want to expand the use of Quality Center and ALM within your organizations. You want to bring on your business analysts and bring on developers to interact with the life cycle. And now they have a very simple, easy-to-use web UI that allows them to, say, author and set up requirements or manage their defects. And they're not required to necessarily download the ALM client, which I know has been a big management challenge. So I think you'll be really excited about the simplicity, the modernization of this web UI. In this next slide, you see just a small snapshot of what it looks like on the requirement side. You can see how clean it is. There's a lot of white space. It's very easy to navigate. And we've also coupled this on the requirement side with a number of new enhancements to make it easier to actually author and manage your requirements. One thing that's pretty much a truism when it comes to business analysts is they like Microsoft Word. They're comfortable in Word. They want to author their requirements document style. So what you see in our user experience with ALM 12, when you're talking about requirements authoring, it's very Word-like. It looks like you're inside Word, you're working with rich text, but then underneath the scenes, ALM is managing those requirements in terms of connecting that metadata with code, with testing. So you actually have a requirement, which is an ALM asset that will flow through the life cycle. But from a business analyst perspective, they're very comfortable. They're in their Word-like environment. They're not having to learn some very new, complex tooling environment that would really prohibit them from wanting to use ALM as their central repository. So it's lightweight. It's very easy to use. And you see on the slide here a quote from one of our beta customers, Alpha Bank, and they're really excited about the new capabilities with the modern web client and the new requirements authoring. So again, the user experience, very clean, web-based, but we also are continuing to support the core, the standard client as well in ALM, and we have made some enhancements in the standard client as well for things like searching and tagging documents to artifacts, and I think you'll be excited about those enhancements as well. So I wanted to spend just a couple of minutes on mobile testing. We've made a number of innovations in Apps 12 for mobile testing, and we're really expanding the options for testing teams working with mobile devices. So when we're talking functional testing, there's really two ways that are both being widely used, both manual mobile testing as well as automated. From an automated functional testing perspective with mobility, we offer UFT Mobile, but we've expanded the way that you can set up and manage your mobile device lab as you're doing your mobile testing. So we've offered a public cloud approach to being able to access mobile devices when you're functional testing. And we continue to offer that and to expand the number of configurations in terms of whether you're using ours, whether you have a virtual private cloud and you can purchase dedicated access to devices. But we're also now adding a ready-to-use on-premise private cloud, which is called Mobile Cloud Express, which works with Unified Functional Testing Mobile, which allows you to bring in-house an appliance where you can directly connect mobile devices, have those devices managed, and then run your automated functional tests against that in-house. So if security or the cloud is an issue for you, we now offer an on-prem option. Functional testing is also often done for mobile devices manually, and we realize that that's a very laborious process, sitting there working through a mobile application, clicking on it, doing, drag, expand and contract. So we're offering, we're expanding the use of Sprinter, which is our manual testing solution for functional testing for mobile, which allows you basically to accelerate your manual testing. So basically, you're able to capture your actions and make those reusable. You're able to annotate on your screen, and you're able to upload the results of your manual test directly into Quality Center and ALM. The whole idea is to remove the most laborious aspects of manual testing out of the process so that you can really focus your manual testers on exploring. We've also added a new capability for testing devices when you're offline, and this is a mobile application. This is kind of the flip side of mobile testing. I was talking about different ways to test your mobile apps. We're also using a mobile platform for testing. So this new application is an HP Anywhere application, which is our mobile platform, and it allows you to basically go offline, say in the field, on a factory floor, out on the storefront, or down in the store, and basically run through a test scenario on your mobile device, capture results, and upload that to Quality Center and Performance Center. Really got a lot of excitement about this from automotive customers, for instance, where you want to have a specific test set that you have people on the factory floor running through where they're testing either something with software or even a physical test for a part of a car, and they want to capture the results of that and upload it into your Quality Center. So this HP Anywhere application is available with Apps 12. The last part of mobile testing is we've made a number of enhancements in performance testing for mobility, and a number of different ways that you can actually record your manual tests using LoadRunner. And so you can do proxy recording, you can do emulation, a number of new capabilities there. And also quite exciting now is the integration of the HP network virtualization capability. And we just announced this morning, actually, that we have acquired the assets of Shunra. So the Shunra capability is now part of the HP portfolio, and we're really excited to bring that in-house to make that part of our overall value proposition. We've had an integration with Shunra for quite some time, but it's now HP capability, HP network virtualization, and we will continue to deepen the integration across our portfolio. So really excited about that. What that enables is the ability to capture the behavior of the network and utilize that in all your tests, whether they're mobile tests or standard performance tests. But it's a huge benefit for mobility because the impact of the network has been captured as up to really 70% of the type of performance you're going to experience when you're running a mobile performance test. So very important to account for the network to know that what you're delivering is really going to work in the wild. So I talked a little bit about continuous testing. I'm just going to give you a bit of a teaser on what we've added with Apps 12 in this area. So those of you that use HP Unified Functional Testing and also use business process testing, you've probably dealt with the situation of wanting to, when you're creating your test automation assets, be able to make those immediately available as a reusable business process test component. You may run into the issue of working within UFT and then having to go out, get into ALM or Quality Center, get into the BPT user experience, and make that happen. We've now integrated all of the BPT work inside UFT. So you can be directly inside Unified Functional Testing and say, make this a business component, I want to edit this business component, or I want to use this business component in a test scenario. So it's one UI to test them all. I tend to like that analogy, a little bit like the Lord of the Rings. And that's a new capability supported in Apps 12. The other thing that we've done is we've tightened the integration of service virtualization in with our functional and performance testing as well as with ALM. So if you're working on testing composite applications that have many moving parts, you probably have dealt with the issue where not all of those parts are available at once. And service virtualization is your answer for that problem. With service virtualization, you're able to virtualize the behavior of application components and make those virtual services available for testing activities. And now you can be inside UFT, inside LoadRunner or Performance Center, and you can actually utilize those virtual services as if you were working with the application under test itself, the real service, from directly inside UFT or LoadRunner or Performance Center. You're not having to toggle in and out into different UIs, into different platforms. So this is really powerful to keep testing moving continuously. The other thing we did with 12 is we've integrated the network virtualization piece with service virtualization. So now not only can you stand up a virtual service, but you can make it behave as if you were accessing it over a 2G network, a 3G network, some other network. So again, it's all about testing as close to reality as you can. So you test early, you test often, and you know with your continuous releases you're getting the results that need to happen when they're out in production, eliminating that defect leakage and moving quality earlier and earlier into the cycle. We also have a number of new enhancements for API testing. They're pretty technical and pretty detailed, but suffice it to say we've continued to enhance our capabilities to set up automated tests, whether you're working with REST-style services, WADL services, WSDL services, you're working with SOAP security, number of new enhancements there, and all of the detailed information is available on the HP website on the UFT page. Finally, when we talk about continuous testing, we're talking about integrating the testing process into your development. So continuous integration is a process that's heavily used by dev teams. And the most popular tool is Jenkins. So what we have done is we've integrated all of our testing solutions, Load Runner, Performance Center, UFT, into Jenkins. So you can trigger a build, you can trigger a build verification, and then you can trigger automatically a regression test and a load test to run with each continuous integration cycle. The point here, testing early, testing often, and testing continuously. This is available also with Apps 12. Here's a nice customer validation of you doing continuous testing. BSkyB, one of our main customer references in this area, is actually using Performance Center. They've utilized the REST API, which allows you to connect it into your continuous integration systems and is fully supported now with 12. And they're doing continuous integration of performance testing as they're doing their development, as they're checking in their builds. So this is getting performance testing in very early in the cycle and really supporting their agile development objectives. They're getting great results from this. So that was kind of a cliff notes of the Apps 12 launch. I know we're probably going to have a ton of questions, so I want to just quickly summarize before we get to them. I talked about 5 main pillars. I talked about cloud testing. I talked about the new ease of use enhancements for ALM and Quality Center. I talked about the mobility testing capabilities that have come in Apps 12 for manual functional testing, automated functional testing, and performance testing. Talked a bit about continuous testing and being able to integrate it into development, as well as leveraging service and network virtualization to keep testing when parts of your application are not available for you. And finally, I mentioned that it's very flexible to get access to these solutions. We offer them both on-premise and via SaaS. So with that, I believe I'm going to actually turn it over for the questions, but before I do that, I want to just point you to a couple of resources that are available for you where you can get a lot of detail on what I just talked about. We have in-depth blogs on all the new capabilities that I just talked about, the 5 pillars, and you see the blog links here. We have, of course, all the latest collateral and videos of the new product capabilities on our website. You can see videos of using the new web user interface for ALM, the requirements capabilities, the defect capabilities. You can see videos of cloud testing, some great stuff. And you can communicate with us anytime through Twitter, through our blog sites, and carry on a conversation. So with that, I believe I'm going to hand it over to Mark to moderate the questions for JG and myself.
Yes, great. Thank you, Kelly. Wow, this is a lot of great stuff being talked about here this morning. I mean, ALM supporting browsers aside from IE. I mean, that's long time desire. That's great to hear that's coming. And the announcement you made about Shunra, that's big too. That's great for HP and for all of us. So really good stuff. That's great. We do have some questions, folks, both a combination of questions that you all are asking during the webinar itself, which we'll get to in a moment, but we also had some questions that we put together ahead of time as well. So I'll start in with some of these, and we'll go forward from there. First, Kelly, I wanted to ask, what are the key success stories around ALM?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. And I'm actually going to repeat the question here for JG to hear it as well, since we're sharing a handset. But I love this question, and the question is, what are the key success stories around ALM? And we have a very large number of customers that we've been working with closely over the last 3.5 years when we first launched ALM 11 at the end of 2010, actually in November. And I'm really excited to see the successes that some of our large customers have had with ALM in terms of a number of different areas. First of all, we have a number of customers that have been able to implement ALM and expand the use of requirements management into the process, and then link that not only with their testing activities, but their development activities. And so what you start to get there is you start to get much richer traceability between what your developers are doing and what your testing activities are covering, and you're able to more rapidly identify any issues early in the process in terms of whether developers are working on things that are not covered by requirements, or whether there are key business critical requirements that are not getting fully covered with tests. And so we're seeing things like anywhere from 30 to 50% reductions in defect leakage into production. We're seeing faster cycle times between development and testing, reducing times anywhere from 25 to 50%. Also, we're starting to see some big success now with the use of automation and sharing that across Agile teams, as well as teams that haven't necessarily fully adopted Agile. And so with ALM and with the asset sharing and the cross-project reporting and the single repository, we have teams that have increased their use of test automation and then utilize those automated assets as components, and then we're sharing those components across different development teams that are working on different composite applications. And so you see significant reduction in testing time, being able to test much more with smaller teams, and then getting higher quality when you release it out into the wild. Also some great success stories with service virtualization being used with ALM. And so one of the big challenges we've seen with a number of customers is delays. And where they want to move to Agile, and they're on very aggressive sprint cycles, but they're finding that either they have to roll things out without fully testing them, or the testing process becomes a delay because the teams can't get access to dependent components. And then utilizing ALM so that they're aware of all the aspects that need to come together to be tested, and then using service virtualization to make virtual services available so that testing can continue has had a huge impact, anywhere from 50 to one customer, 90% reduction in delays. So some significant success stories here.
Great, great. I guess on the flip side of that, if you will, what are some of the top issues or concerns expressed by users as it pertains to ALM?
Yes, another very good question. So I mentioned success story and now top concerns. A couple of things, and I think that we're really addressing a number of these things with Apps 12. One of the concerns that I've heard in the past is getting adoption. So ALM getting widely adopted throughout the quality teams, but how to get more, say for instance, business analysts engaging and not working within the silo of Microsoft Office and being disconnected or relying on a manual handoff loop. So some of the new enhancements, for instance, in 12 with the Word-like requirements interface and the very easy web-based user interface, so you don't have to distribute the client on all their desktop, is helping a lot with bringing more users on board to use ALM. So I would say that's one of the challenges. And then, of course, on the flip side, getting developers engaged. And the enhancements that we've made over the last couple of years with application lifecycle intelligence, which is the integration capability within ALM, to be able to bring in information about source code and information about build activities, really helps so that we're not necessarily having to force developers to move off of their existing tools, but we're able to get the insight and the information on what they're doing, so we can tie that to testing activities, to requirements activities, and again create those closed feedback loops that are so important when you're trying to speed up your delivery process. So, so the biggest challenges or concerns I've heard is how to get people adopting the platform. and we've really made a number of enhancements there.
Fantastic. What is HP doing to make it easier to leverage ALM in agile environments, which are, of course, pretty common these days?
Yeah, it's another great question. Leverage ALM in agile environments. Something that I want to highlight here that I didn't talk about in the webinar because it wasn't necessarily a new capability in 12, but something that we've rolled out over the last 6 to 9 months that I definitely, actually I think it's been over a year now, that's worth highlighting is our integration of ALM with Agile Manager. And so what we're seeing with with Agile teams is they want to use purpose-built Agile management capabilities. And HP introduced HP Agile Manager a little over a year ago. It's very, very easy to use purpose-built solution for managing your scrums or a Kanban, your different Agile processes, and it has a very Agile look and feel. It's using Agile terminology, user stories. It's very easy to set up your teams and understand their velocity and all the different aspects that are key in Agile. But we want to keep that activity tied to the overall life cycle processes, tied to the business requirements, tied to the testing activities. And we've created integration and synchronization between ALM and Agile Manager, and we have a number of customers that are being very successful in doing that, in keeping their Agile activities tied to their overall testing best practices, understanding the status of incidents and defects, and tying Agile into the broader life cycle. So that's one thing I did not talk about in the webinar that I think is really key to make it easier to leverage ALM in an Agile environment is through that integration. We also integrate with other Agile tools as well. So if you're using a different Agile platform, we have an integration with ALM. So similar, keeping defects in sync, keeping requirements in sync. The other thing I talked about in the webinar, which is a really key aspect of being successful in Agile, is to be able to be part of a continuous integration process. And there's two things there. There's the integration of testing into continuous integration with Unified Functional Testing and Load Runner and Performance Center, but also ensuring that the information from that continuous integration process, whether those tests completed successfully, what results did you see, get automatically populated back into ALM so you have that instant visibility and can take immediate action the next morning in your stand-up meeting. So those are kind of two things I'd want to highlight there.
That's great, Kelly. Thanks. I did have another one for you, and then I have some for JG to not leave him out of the mix.
Sure.
How does mobility change ALM? What are key ALM success factors when dealing with mobile application initiatives?
Yes, a very good question. Mobility is really probably a number of things, but the biggest significance on ALM from mobility is speeding up the cadence. Mobile users are impatient users. They're expecting a delightful user experience, and they're expecting it to keep them engaged and to update regularly, yet maintain extremely high levels of quality. And the switching costs are very low with mobile applications. And the patience for dealing with performance or functional problems is also very low. So really it's doing two things. It's really doubling down on the need to have closed feedback loops and continuous processes and fast cycles, at the same time ensuring constant quality. So I think mobility actually raises the importance of ALM, raises the importance of test automation, and finally raises the importance of virtualization. Because the other thing that's happening when you're dealing with mobility is you're dealing with applications that are touching many different other applications and data services in the back office, because mobile applications don't function in a vacuum. Especially if it's a business application, an e-commerce application, you're going to be touching those applications back in your back office, and you're going to be making changes rapidly. But I can assure you that IT operations is not going to want you touching your customer database, every other day for testing. So it's really important to have that virtualization capability in your dev and test lab, so you can stand up those simulated services, you can mimic their functional and performance behavior, you can mimic their network behavior, and you can keep testing to assure that what you're going to roll out is going to work when it actually ends up in production. So speed of delivery, automation, and virtualization are really key drivers for mobility.
Great. All right, a few for JG. Give him a chance.
I'm going to go ahead and hand him the phone handset here for a couple of questions.
Perfect.
Hi.
Hi, JG. Sorry to keep you waiting. We have a few for you.
No, not at all.
Awesome. Great. We have a few questions for you. One of which is, can you give a glimpse of the HP ALM roadmap and vision? Where is ALM going over the next 1 to 3 years?
Well, okay, that's a great question, and maybe I can pop that up a level and talk ADM all up. And I think Kelly touched on two key things that we are looking at when she talked about agile and mobility. So what you can really see us, doing over the next couple of years is really strengthening our value proposition to the central IT. So really focusing on solutions that continue to add much more visibility about what is going on in the organization all up. As we also start to look at the line of business and figure out how we can help them deal with the plethora of tools and methodologies they use, really solving, making deeper bets on things like network and service virtualization as a way to, for them to, really get a handle around mobility and apps and the cloud. And then finally, what you can, I don't have anything to disclose here, but all I can say is, what you've heard us talk today about mobility is simply, sort of the tip of the iceberg. You're going to see us make a much more deeper commitment and a bet into the whole mobility world. And certainly that's very exciting for someone like me, who comes from that world at Microsoft. So that's what you're going to see us do.
Great, great. Another one for you, JG. What's the best way for customers to communicate with HP in regards to any concerns they have in order to have their voices heard?
Well, let me give you the easiest way to do it. You can always send me an email, and I'll certainly, I promise you that I will listen to you. I don't know what the protocol is for sharing email, but you can always reach me at john.chirapurath@hp.com. And, we are a very passionate team here. There isn't a lot of, sort of divisions, in the way we work and the way we operate. We are really passionate about our customers. We are really passionate about our, about the space. So, the personal touch always works. But if you prefer to engage in a much more broader fashion, Kelly shared some links at the end of her presentation which talked about our blogs, our Twitter, and our support forums. You're certainly open to interact with us through those forums. And of course, if you're coming to Discover, which I highly recommend you do, we look forward to meeting you and saying hello in person and listening to what your concerns and what your needs are.
Okay. And then one more here for you, JG. It seems like there's a lot of great features, value-added features in ALM, but in a lot of cases, they're either unknown or otherwise unused, whether it be lack of experience, lack of knowledge of their existence, and so forth. Aside from partnering with Vivit, what is HP doing to raise awareness about some of these features and thus helping customers realize more value from their software investment?
Yes. I always say that, when I looked at the portfolio here and the kinds of things we are working on and the breadth and depth of our product portfolio, I sometimes joke here that we are probably the best kept secret in the world of application delivery. We've certainly struggled, I admit, to shake away and, from our DNA. I mean, people know us best for certain iconic products, and as is the case with a lot of companies with a broader portfolio, sometimes you really have to be intentional in stepping outside your legacy and really talking about all the other things that we are doing. The fact of the matter is, over the next months and certainly year or so, you're going to see us be a lot more active in the space. You're going to see us engage the developer community in a much more fundamental way. You're going to see us actually talk about things like methodologies, best practices, not from a perspective of, shilling our product, but really to say that, we have a perspective. We have a point of view on how, for example, Agile should be done in the age of, continuous delivery, how quality ought to work. So you're going to see us take a lot of stronger positions, and you're also going to see us a lot more active and out there, even from a product perspective, clarifying our point of view. Thank you.
Great. Awesome, JG. Thank you. I have a few more for Kelly, if you wouldn't mind passing her the phone back.
Okay. Sorry. Here you go.
No problem.
Hey there, Mark. You ready for
Hi,
more
Kelly.
questions?
How are you? Yeah, I have a few more, and then I want to turn to the audience questions that have come in since we started. But one is
Sure.
Going back to some of the stuff you were talking about with regards to the cloud testing. Can you describe a little bit more about that? In particular, what's different now from what customers could do previously with Load Runner and Performance Center, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a really key new capability in Apps 12 and the cloud testing capability. And I would encourage all of you to take a look at the videos that are on hp.com. We can also make the links available to get you the fast path to them. So in essence, to make it as simple as possible, what you're able to do now is leverage your cloud accounts to very quickly and easily provision out load generators, schedule a performance test, and run it in the cloud at a very large scale, and then automatically make a decision as to whether you want to keep those load generators out in your cloud accounts and share them and manage them across teams, or whether you want to deprovision them so that you're not incurring additional charges in your cloud accounts. So all of this in the past was manual and laborious. The interplay or the integration between the cloud account, its network configuration, its security configuration, your data center, pushing the actual load generation software out there in a secure way was all very challenging. You needed to have a network expert, a security expert, a lot of IT resource. It's all now internalized inside Load Runner Performance Center. And so you're just doing it within your Performance Center or within your Load Runner UI, and you literally can spin them up in a matter of minutes.
That's great. One more here, and then I'm going to start turning to the audience questions here. One of the questions here was, what about integration with third-party tools? You know, a lot of folks like to integrate ALM with other products and tools to help with their utilization of the product, or to leverage integration with other products. Can you give an overview of that a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. I think that's a really key part of the value proposition with ALM, is enabling ALM to be your hub of activity. And so reality in IT today is that there are many tools being used across teams, whether it's in central IT or out in different project teams. And being able to capture the information, the tasks, the metadata out of those systems and make that participate in your application lifecycle is key. So ALM, of course, supports application lifecycle intelligence, which is our integration framework that we actually have already integrated over 70 different tools that are part of your SDLC. So it tends to be development tools, defect management tools, build systems. And so we have a number of tools that are integrated through ALI, and that allows you to be able to capture developer tasks or information about development activities, for instance, and make that part of the information and traceability. We call it 7-way traceability with ALM. We also continue to support the Synchronizer API. So we have a number of tools that are integrated through the Synchronizer API. We do realize that often, for instance, you might be using a more customized, purpose-built requirements management environment. Maybe you're operating in a very highly regulated environment. You need a specific requirements management capability for that. We have that in those kinds of tools like Visual that are integrated in ALM. So we continue to support and expand the number of third-party tools that are integrated through Synchronizer and through ALI, and we'll continue to publish the latest and greatest out there on HP Live Network, as well as on the overall HP website. Live Network's the best place to see new integrations as they come on board. And we want to encourage partners and the additional creation of content on Live Network using our API environment. So, it's well documented and available for you. So yeah, we're continuing to expand the number of integrations we have with ALM.
Great, great. So let's turn to some of these audience questions. And again, folks, any of the questions, whether it be the ones that we had come in advance of the webinar that I didn't get to ask Kelly and JG, as well as questions that have come in during the webinar itself that we do not get to address now, we're going to pull all those off and get those addressed when you get the information about the recording of the webinar and so forth. We'll have that content get created and distributed as well. But let's see here. One question that comes in here is, will Sprinter be seamlessly integrated in ALM 12, or is that on the roadmap for a future version of the products?
So that's an easy one to answer. It is integrated. So it is seamlessly integrated today. So you can get Sprinter. Sprinter is part of ALM and part of Quality Center. And one of the key benefits of Sprinter is the ability that when you're doing your manual tests and you're capturing the steps, you can actually make that an ALM test. So that capture, those steps that you've captured are actually made available in ALM and are shareable across other teams. You're also able to take the output of Sprinter and create a smart defect. So let's say you've annotated your screen and you're showing where the behavior occurred that was not what you expected, and you can couple that with the recording or the textual capture of the steps and upload that and make that available of ALM and Quality Center as well. So that's automatically integrated. So it's actually part of the 12 platform.
Great. Great. When will other web-based interfaces be available beyond requirements and defects?
Yes, that is our forward-looking discussion item, and I know that there's a lot of interest in seeing this modern UI basically be reflected across all of ALM, and that is definitely our energy and our R&D, a lot of R&D activity going around on that. So we do have an aggressive roadmap for expanding the functionality. I can't actually give actual dates out at this time, but it is definitely something that we are actively working on, and you will see it roll out in the next subsequent set of releases that come for ALM, so stay tuned.
And and this is, I'm sure, a very silly question, but I'll ask it anyway. Of course, while all this is going on, folks that wanted to could download the ALM Explorer browser and leverage that as well, correct?
They could. Yeah, you can download. It's available today on hp.com, so you can download the new ALM 12 capability.
Perfect. Here's one that says, so between the same versions like Enterprise 11 to 12 or ALM 11 to ALM 12, excluding lab management, etc., there is no extra cost associated in terms of reusing the existing licenses when we upgrade. I don't know if
that is correct. If you're on support, you are automatically entitled to 12.
Excellent. I read that the web UI does not support projects with version control enabled. Will that be enabled in a minor release, or will we have to wait for ALM 13?
So that capability is something that we are, it's part of our roadmap. So it's going to be in a subsequent release. I can't say which one, but it will definitely be in an iteration.
I noticed the ability to select the browser type that I wanted to create some automated tests with using UFT 11.53. But when I upgraded to UFT 12.0, I did not see these options. Based on what was said about the ability to test with multiple browser types, I'm confused as to why I don't see it now that I've upgraded.
I would actually have that question come to me directly, and I'll talk with our UFT R&D team because it should be supported. So I'm not sure why they're seeing that. So the capabilities in 11.5.3 do roll over to 12, so that's interesting. I haven't heard of that support issue. So if you could forward that question to me, I'll have us look into it.
Okay. Does HP App 12 offer lightweight evaluation addition for Windows 7 to make interested customer conduct the evaluation without finding the heavy server to host HP App 12?
I don't know about that one either, so let me find out, and I will definitely follow up on that. I think I need to ask the R&D team a few questions about how the download process works and whether you can get just the web part of the functionality or if you have to download the whole package. So let me find out for you.
Sure. Does ALM 12 provide password strong, I think that's policy, but they left a letter or two out, but I'm guessing on that.
So was somebody popping in, or?
No.
I thought I heard a voice.
Nope.
So we support a number of different security capabilities. We actually now with 12 we support SiteMinder, for instance, which I know is a more a strong policy and enforcement for authentication. We also, for the federal environment, support CAC. So I would need to know if they're asking about a very specific security, a type, or if that covers it. So a little bit more clarification would help with that question.
Sure. And then a couple others. There's only about a minute or so left, but real quick. One is, and this actually looks to be on the list a couple different times coming in from the audience, Kelly. They want to know, could you please provide the actual URLs from the Learn More slide just presented?
Absolutely.
And then there was another question, and this is more to the Vivit side, but I'll address it. It was about when will this content be made available after, or how soon after? Typically, it's a few days before we turn this around and make it available for the audience with regards to the recording of the webinar and the follow-up to the questions that are outstanding. But I would say if you don't see anything within a week, let me know, and I'll try to see what the estimated time of delivery is. But it's typically, a few days to a week with the turnaround.
And what I can do in the FAQ, so the questions that we didn't get a chance to answer, there were a couple where I'm going to follow up with the team. We will put the URLs in there as well to all the blogs, to the live network page. Some of the things that I talked about today, we'll make sure you have the URLs there.
Great. Well, folks, we're about out of time. I want to thank Kelly and JG and the other folks from HP that have been helping behind the scenes with the incoming questions. For their time, this has been a lot of great and valuable information. Definitely check out the recording and the replay, pass it along to your friends and colleagues afterwards, and we look forward to having you join us again for future Vivit webinars. And if you haven't already done so, definitely, if it's within your ability, check out and sign up for HP Discover. There'll be a lot of good information to be had there as well. And we'll see you next time, folks. Have a great rest of your day, and take care.